Hi, today I've got a video for you of the process of painting these 4 little food illustrations. So pour yourself a cup of coffee. Mine says relax, and maybe light a candle, get cozy, and you can paint along with me. Maybe not what I'm painting because I'm going to speed it up, hyperspeed, but you could just have company while you paint. I often watch other people paint while I paint. I don't know why. It's something I do. So today I'm using watercolor, and the 4 illustrations that I am painting are a coffee with some cinnamon sticks next to it, and this one is just full of amazing highlights of shadows and reflections. I'm also going to be painting some bacon and a waffle. The last illustration is a muffin. I am using a Schmincke 12 color watercolor set, and on the side there in that last pan, mixing pan, you can see I have 3 different colors that I pulled from the Prima Marketing Decadent Pies set. So they're a Naples yellow red, sort of, and a yellow ochre. It kind of looks brown there, but it comes out as a yellow ochre. And I found these were really wonderful colors to have while working on food illustrations. I'm also using Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. They're synthetic, and right now, so far, I prefer synthetic, partially because I can't afford the actual natural bristle brushes, but also because they are so incredibly reliable in terms of getting a sharp point. So that's what I'm using today. I believe I use a 4 round a lot, a 2, and an 8. Those are the ones I own. And I'm also using a 6 round Winsor & Newton Scepter Gold 2. And that is a sable synthetic. So it's a blend, and it holds water wonderfully. I think that's all I'll say for now. I'm going to put on some tunes and just paint at 4 times the speed. I forgot to use a time-lapse feature on my phone. This is something I'll do in future videos, but for this one I just recorded real time because I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to add an entire voiceover. But in the end, I've decided not to make this one a sort of tutorial and just let this be a watch me paint type video. So yeah, in the future it'll be slightly different, probably take less time to show you the whole painting process. Alrighty, let's paint. The waffle actually takes a long time, so be prepared for that. Just the little details in it, just lots of the little indentations and shadows and highlights. It was a really great exercise. If you need to practice with mixing a million different subtle changes in color with watercolor, I would recommend painting a waffle. So a couple notes on the waffle. I'm pretty sure Leslie Knope would be appalled at the lack of whipped cream. And in retrospect, I do feel sad that I chose butter and strawberries on the waffle. There is syrup on there as well. And on a more artistic note, the syrup poses quite a problem, which is a good problem to solve, and that is that of reflection, both in the little square indentations and then also on the top of the waffle. So I end up using white ink. I think it's Winsor & Newton, and it's sort of a cheat because I did not have the forethought to plan out my whites and to maintain them early on. So I do go back in and I have to make quite a few layers in order for it to cover up. And personally, I do think the waffle painting is a bit weak. In the end, it looks good, but it did take a lot of back and forth, and I usually feel like the more successful paintings are the ones that came about naturally instead of the ones that you labored and labored over, because they tend to look more, look tighter, look more, sometimes even overworked. So yeah, that was just a little note on my issues with this dang waffle. The bacon as well, a little note about the bacon. All of these are from photographs, and the bacon is cooked bacon, and it didn't have a lot of that telltale striation, like the white versus that nice contrast between the white and the pink areas that define what looks like bacon today, in all the emojis and whatnot. So it was a good painting. It was interesting to make, but I end up making a separate bacon painting, and instead of painting from a picture of cooked bacon, I paint a picture of raw bacon. And nobody really thinks about whether it's cooked or raw when they look at the final product. So I might be able to include a picture of it here or just a future video of that bacon painting, because again, I wasn't that pleased with the way this turned out. The muffin was a fun paint. As usual, I started with the lights and worked my way into the darker browns, and I actually also use gouache in this watercolor near the end. I use some white just for some of the highlights. You can see that little tray off to the left, that porcelain tray. I think it's meant for wedding rings. It says Mr. and Mrs., but it was the tray I could find that was shallow enough, and that's really useful for a little white ink or gouache dish. And so I found that with a lot of these, I just didn't preserve the light of the page. I haven't been traditionally trained in watercolor. I've just picked it up over the years with a lot of use. And I think that's okay, just because more and more these days it's better to be able to break the rules and just make them work for you. So never fret if you're not traditionally trained. You might actually, be able to use that as a strength. My favorite part of this painting are the little waffly, zigzaggy, sort of accordion highlights and shadows on the muffin cup. Is my favorite part. And the way that the baking shows through in some parts. I don't know how often you just stare at the bottom of muffins, but yeah, I love how at parts the baking is stuck to the inside of that cup, and at other parts it isn't, and it's just the paper. It's just very beautiful. This was a blueberry muffin, as you can probably tell. And talking about it makes me want a muffin right now. So this brings us to the end of our 4 little food illustrations today. Thank you for watching and maybe painting along. I hope you'll check out my channel for more paint-alongs and sketchbook tours. Maybe like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any. And to leave you today, here's my chihuahua being all cozy. Thanks and bye for now.